Hello everybody and welcome back to Serious Sunday. I'm your host Luke and this is the show where I talk about video games and stuff. This week I wanted to take a brief moment to return to a project that we've spoken about on the show before, one that elicits a lot of different emotions from different people. That is Star Citizen, the space game to end all space games, if the pitch is to be believed. See, this is the single most highly crowdfunded video game in human history and very may well be the last to receive the amount of funding that it has. It is enormous. Unfortunately, with the amount of money that it has received and the amount of eyes on it, it has brought with it a comparable amount of controversy because, you see, people wonder with a project of this size and one that's made the amount of money that it has, where all of the money is going and why the game, with the amount of money and the size of the staff that Cloud Imperium Games has, hasn't been finished yet, isn't even in many cases entirely playable yet. Especially when their original development budget and schedule said that the game would be done at this point about 2 years ago. It's been compared to Duke Nukem Forever, and it's also been unfavorably compared to No Man's Sky in the past. Yours truly may even have been guilty of doing the same at one point. You can watch the video where I talked about Star Citizen in the past to hear exactly what I had to say on that topic, but I digress. This week, on November 18th, Cloud Imperium Games sent out its weekly newsletter, this one titled Letter from the Chairman, which gave us some very interesting news that I wanted to share with you guys. Something from the standpoint of someone who has been in the production side of video games is very, very interesting and kind of exciting. You see, Cloud Imperium Games has stated in their most recent email newsletter that they are planning on releasing publicly their production schedule. Now, if you're not entirely familiar with what a video game production schedule is and should look like and really contains, well, you would be excused for that because it's not something that a lot of people see. Hell, even many people in the video games industry that like programmers and so on don't really get to see this type of thing that very often either. So this is something that I think a lot of people are going to be very interested in reading, or at least at first before they really delve into it. You see, I've worked in production over the course of my career, so I can with confidence say that it's probably going to be a little bit dry, but at the same time, for me, this is very exciting and it's going to be something that I'm going to watch very closely. You see, a production schedule in a video game is more than just really a schedule, but it's a chart that includes all of the gameplay features that are going to be worked on in the near future, quite possibly all of the game features at all. Their dependencies, who's working on them, how long it's expected for them to take, what could possibly be blocking them from being developed, what kind of a priority that they have. Basically, this is a roadmap for the entire development process of a video game, down to an itemized list. And this is not something that you usually see for video games, unless you're a game producer in general. And usually, I personally have never heard of somebody releasing publicly their production schedule. Now, this may be a response to all of those detractors saying, show us where the money is, show us where you've used this, show us why it's taking so long for this game to be made. And that can also be excused because, in all honesty, the game has taken quite a while and has not met a lot of its projected goals. But now we're going to finally get the opportunity to look at and see exactly where their development time is going, when things are being delayed, and perhaps even why, and to really get a bird's eye view of this project in a way that most people will never even get the opportunity to do so, in many cases even on projects that they themselves work on. This is a very high-level document, and though from a layman's perspective it may look like a very boring Excel spreadsheet, I think that this is going to be something that you're going to want to keep an eye on if you have some sort of an interest in Star Citizen and want to see where this project has been and where it's going. And if you've ever really thought, well, what's happened to this project? Where is it going? Why isn't this ready yet? Well, this aims to answer those questions, it would appear. Now, obviously, there's always going to be some internal office things that are going to go on. You can call it office politics if you like. I don't know entirely what will go into this because it was only just announced. But we're now seeing from Cloud Imperium Games a level of transparency that you never see from video game developers. Not that this is something that we actively try to hide from our public, but just because it's something that is difficult to read and many times would be very difficult to explain to somebody when you don't have a lot of the additional context that goes behind these types of projects. You see, making video games and making estimates for the amount of time that it's going to take to develop certain things in video games is a very non-accurate science. Team leaders and members of a video game development studio will always make estimates as to how long it's going to take in order to do whatever the task that they specifically are going to be working on should take, but there are so many other factors because of the interplay of design and programming and art in a video game that mean that there are very often going to be unforeseen circumstances that lead to something taking longer than expected. And this is why most of the time video games very rarely give out a release date until it's absolutely set in stone, usually by the time the game is in beta or already very close to launching. At best, we usually can say something like this season of this year, and even then, very often, it's not accurate. This isn't because we're bad at it, it's just because it's very difficult to anticipate everything that is going to happen. If you watch the Man Month video that I did quite a while ago, I say to add a 20% onto any estimate that's given. Even then, a lot of the time things fall through the cracks and time is taken beyond that which is expected. Well, now, in the case of Star Citizen at the very least, we're going to get to see exactly how that all is panning out. So if you ever had any questions as to the processes and the efficacy of their production team, well, now you have the opportunity to really get in on the nitty-gritty of the development of this project. Now, if you personally don't really care about Star Citizen, this information isn't going to be all that interesting to you, but I would go so far as to say that even if Star Citizen is something that you could not possibly care less about, if you're at all interested in video game development in general, I would say check this out a few times. A video game production schedule is a rare beast and definitely worth taking a look at, especially one that is updating in real time. Well, not quite real time, once a week, to be fair, but that's going to show you all of the delays and all of the priorities that are being assigned to things, and everything that's being worked on, and when and where. This is an opportunity to really understand a project that has a budget that most of us will never see in our lifetimes, even those of us who work in the industry and work on fairly large projects. I personally am going to be keeping a very close eye on this, and you may very well see a few more reports on it from me in the future. Who knows, maybe I'll even do an analysis of their production schedule at some point in the future. But for now, that's really all I have. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I will see you again tomorrow. Take care.